up a chair next to the biggest hearth of them all. The Hearthstone World Championship at BlizzCon! And now, introducing your host, Rachel Quirico!
Hi everyone, welcome back! It's the final day of BlizzCon here on the Hearthstone World Championship stage. I am your host, Seltzer, and we are bringing you the conclusion of all our thrilling Hearthstone action this weekend. If you're just joining us, we have 3 World Championship matches left today. The first semifinal where Ostkaka will play against Tice. The second semifinal where Hot Form battles Puno for the last spot in the Grand Finals, and of course, our Grand Finals. We're warming up the tavern for a World Championship semifinal start time of 11 a.m. But until then, we're settling a little argument between Team Archon and Tempo Storm. In the best way we know how, actually, with Tavern Brawls. Here to bring you coverage of this historic grudge match are the guys on the desk, Nimsh, Frodan, and Robert. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Tempo Storm versus Team Archon. We're finally going to see who is the better team. Frodan, as the janitor of Tempo Storm, can you please explain?
Well, basically what happened was Amaz and Reynad were playing over at the demo PCs for the new adventure that was announced yesterday, the League of Explorers, and they were just having a little fun playing a game against each other, but it started getting a little more intense, and of course, as it concluded, like most games Amaz plays, he top decked for the exact lethal, and Reynad didn't like it at all, so he challenged Amaz to a best of 9 and the right to the trophy.
Yeah, and obviously with the Hearthstone World Championship going on, best of 9 a little bit unwieldy. We do have a championship, as I said, to run today, but you know, we can do something to maybe settle the argument, which is a time trial run of the new Tavern Brawl featuring Gear Master Mechazon.
Yeah, that's right. These guys are going to be playing through Tavern Brawl because, as unrealistic as it was, and it didn't even stop at best of 9. It was like, well, we'll play a best of 9, best of 11, best of 17, best of 31. It's like, well, right now we only have 30 minutes, so we decided, you know, we're going to be playing a Tavern Brawl. Whoever be finishing on an earlier time, which, as far as Reynad is concerned, will be the most important thing happening at BlizzCon for the entire year.
An entire World Championship going on, and Reynad bases the most important event based on him possibly winning. Classic Ray Noodle.
That's right. How funny it would be if he can't even beat the Tavern Brawl boss.
Well, I mean, it would be incredibly ironic, considering that a lot of the historical grudge has been because these players rightfully think that they are better. So I'm really looking forward to see who's going to get the edge here at League Eagle.
Robert, can you please, because this is a new Tavern Brawl, can you please explain who is Mechazod? Because we heard it so many times before, just shout, those small notes were shouting it. Who is he?
Right, so button up for your lore lesson of the day. Gear Master Mechazod is a quest NPC in the Borean Tundra during the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and quite simply, he's a very nice robot, and all he wants to do is help other people be robots.
So nice.
Because being humans, they're terrible.
Oh, wow. All right, then Frodan, with the Tavern Brawl, what do you think is the strategy? Like, how do you actually approach it if you want to win? Right,
so for anybody who has not been able to dip into the Tavern Brawl, the way that it works this week is that you actually cooperate with another player to fight one single minion, and that is Mechazod. He has 95 HP and he has Taunt, and every player is required to attack it. You can't really attack your opponent, who actually is your ally. And there's a lot of cards that does interact with your opponent. For example, Refreshment Vendor, a card that heals both players, is a card that often sees drawback because you don't want to heal your enemy, but in this case you heal your ally. So those are really interesting cards with how they work in this Tavern Brawl specifically.
Yeah, it's so cool that you look at the game in a different way. It's cards like Arcane Golem giving mana to your opponent.
Yeah,
at the very beginning you feel like, hey, there is this mech, but I kind of want to win myself. But then you start thinking about how can I help the other player to actually use the game to your advantage.
There is one thing we will say, that the players are allowed to communicate to each other, so it's not necessarily like any of them are getting unfair edges. We're allowing them to fully cooperate in the best way possible, whether they use game chat or they use you know, real life audio, their own voices. They can kind of shout at each other like, no, what are you doing? Like, buff my guy and don't buff yours. Don't be so selfish. There's a lot of ways that you can work together with your ally or by yourself independently and frustrate your teammate.
Robert, do you think there is any possibility that one of the teammates will actually try to gimp the victory? Maybe Fireball will try very hard to win everything, and Amaz will be like, you know, I'm going to give this one to Tempo Storm.
I just can't even begin to see a universe where Amaz, in a chance to show Tempo Storm once and for all that Archon is better, would ever gimp his chances of winning. You know, Amaz has a reputation of being a guy who does anything to win, so I fully expect to see that.
All right, guys. Well, why wait any longer? Let's see what sort of time Team Archon can set, led by Amaz and Fireball. All right, guys, the time is here. Amaz and Firebat facing Mechazard.
Yeah, they're already talking and communicating. They're trying to get their initial plan underway. Now, there's a lot of elements to this Tavern Brawl that we want to emphasize. The first, again, is that, you know, there are cards in these decks that are pre-made. You don't get to build your deck specifically to try to fight against it. And between each player's turn, so as you can see, Firebat passed, and then there's a card being played called Assassinate. This is being done by the enemy AI here with Mechazard.
Yeah, and Mechazard has an ability double zap, dealing damage to both players. Robert, what do you think is the best scenario for the players to defeat the Mechazard?
Obviously, you have to play kind of what you draw into early, but I'm of the mind, and Dan, you might disagree with me here, but I'm of the mind that the Priest actually carries this matchup, and all the Paladin has to do is not mess it up. The Priest is really the one setting everything up, and then the Paladin can kind of buff these minions with Divine Shield and go to do a lot of damage. But I think the best scenario is the Priest gets out minions like Loot Hoarder, Cold Light Oracles, draws a bunch of cards, and helps the Paladin set up to do a bunch of damage.
Well, it's interesting. Like, Crip actually talks the matchup specifically like this way, and he's played a lot of the Tavern Brawls. I'm of the belief that neither player is truly the carry, that it just requires really good timing on cards like Lord Walker Cho. And there are cards like Millhouse Mana Storm as well, which normally is one of the worst cards you can play in a Hearthstone game where the opponent on the other side has all spells. But in this case, Millhouse and Lord Walker Cho, if you combine both those elements, will give you outrageous results.
Also, if Millhouse Mana Storm is being played, Paladin can get all those blessed champions and buffs on one turn, and maybe even one-shot Mechazard with the health being left.
I want to take a moment to kind of address the strategy that Mechazard is choosing to go with, which is double zap, like 4 or 5 times in the onset of this match, though.
So this is really good start for Team Archon in many ways. The first is that Mechazard took a long time to get ramping early by gaining attack. And he has a few options. The first is that he can zap both players for the direct damage with his attack, so he'd be doing 6 right now to both. Or he can do 3 targets randomly, and that would end up killing minions or doing face damage too. So those are his offensive options, and then he also has a defensive one in Assassinate, where he kills the highest attack minion possible.
You also have to be careful not to overload the board, because if there's 7 minions and Mechazard cannot join the other side of the board, he's going to destroy everyone.
Ooh, this is very aggressive Lord Walker Cho, and if the Zombie Chow does end up getting killed off, that's okay, because Firebat can also be able to buff something else and give it right back. They're moving really quickly, though, because looks like the Mechazard is aggroing the opponent's face rather than controlling the state of the board. And remember, all of these choices are, so to speak, randomly chosen, even though it conveniently doesn't feel like that way.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see that Mechazard is so aggro here, because normally when you play Lord Walker Cho, you think Lord Walker Cho is the best card you can get, just trading the spells, giving spells to your friends to defeat him. But Mechazard has this special skill to kill Lord Walker Cho.
Yeah, he's even less a fan of pandas than he is of people with black.
Yes. One thing to note, too, is that on this following turn, because you're like, well, Lord Walker Cho seems like a really powerful card, it will be spent the entire turn killing Lord Walker Cho. So Firebat and Amaz are kind of trying to exploit this turn, saying, we're going to buff these minions as strong as we can, because we know on the following turn, Mechazard will spend an entire card assassinating Lord Walker Cho specifically, because he hates pandas.